In this video, we're going to be taking apart the Grand Tableau just to give an example of how easy it is to not be overwhelmed by the Grand Tableau, but to use it very quickly, very efficiently, very practically, very elegantly to do a straightforward reading using the cards. In this example, I'm using the Cyberpunk Lenormand, for which we currently have a Kickstarter running, and I'd encourage you, if you find this reading useful, to perhaps back the campaign. That would be very much appreciated, so we can get the Lenormand into more people's hands. So, in a sense, when we break into the Lenormand, it is a little bit like entering cyberspace. And when we lay out a Grand Tableau reading, we might be easily overwhelmed because we're laying out all 36 cards, or a combination of cards if we're using extra cards. But I want to show you how to consider it in your mind as a language that you are going to break down and begin to interpret. I drew these cards into this matrix, if you'll pardon the pun, in order to give an example, and they just fell into a semi-numerical order. That was just the way I dragged them in, so this isn't a made-up reading to make it easy. This is just a random selection of the cards into a Grand Tableau. Now, one of the things that we're going to use in this is I'm going to be considering the Philippe sheet, the coffee cards, the dream symbolism, reading of coffee grounds and the original symbolism of that, Arthur Edward Waite's writing on the similar symbols, and contemporary European readings of the cards. What I've sort of done is boiled all of those down, and I tend to use the book that Tali and I wrote under our pen name Andrea Green, called 7-Day Lenormand, to make sure that I'm sticking the readings to the traditional language of the Lenormand. So if we're doing a reading here for a female sitter, we're going to use the woman card, in this case, as our significator, as our key card, as an entryway into the matrix, into the cyberspace of the Grand Tableau, into this artificially constructed world of meaning that we're going to navigate our way through. In effect, we're going to hack the Grand Tableau. So in my mind, I would tend to zone in and focus on the woman card. And in this case, I'm sort of looking at the card immediately below her. This is her sort of area of concern in this layout of the Grand Tableau. If this card was in the top right, top left, bottom right, somewhere else in the middle area, then I might read it somewhat differently. And that's the power of the Grand Tableau. It has enough room and space to allow our interpretations to breathe and to depict the complexity of any situation in all of its variations and possibilities. So here we see that the house card is below the woman. This is a sitter who has come to us, perhaps even if she hasn't told us anything about her situation, who has a literally domestic situation. There's something happening at home that she wants to get to grips with, to resolve, and it's something that's within her immediate anxiety and concern. It's right below her in the Grand Tableau. So that would be one of the first things I'd look at. And in effect, we're doing a one-card reading here. We're saying we've drawn the card for the woman, the card is the house, and the house is the house, the home. So therefore, a one-card reading of this would be, there is something happening in your domestic situation for which you've come to the reading. We might then find ourselves focusing on the fact that the man card is right next to the woman card. This means that they are close, they're in a close relationship, but they're sort of turned away from each other the way that they have fallen. So it does seem to be that there is a man involved in the situation, probably her partner, and that they are close together in a lot of ways, but they are not seeing eye to eye in a particular circumstance. And so this might draw my eye then to the man card. So now we've read two cards around the woman card, but we're also making sense of the direction and the pattern that the cards are in relationship to each other. And this is actually from coffee ground reading, where the coffee grounds or tea leaves or sherbet, depending on where it was in the cup, would actually alter the reading of the symbol itself. And this has sort of fallen over into Lenormand cards. So we're looking at their relative distance to each other, their proximity, their spatial relationship, the cards that are around them. So now my eye might move to the man card. And we can see that the man card, unlike the woman card, has the cross underneath. And the cross in Lenormand is a very negative card. It's a card of suffering and anxiety and almost self-sacrifice in a bad sense. It's almost as if the man is making a martyr of himself with regard to the domestic situation. So it's more on the man's side. The woman is trying to hold the house together, but the man is trying to make an art of the anxiety or the suffering. Now, at the moment, we don't know what that is about. We don't know what whether it's a big thing, a small thing, whether it's going to last a long time or not. So we perhaps want to look into that, and we put that into our mind in order to go exploring the rest of the matrix. Now we can see that we've in effect read this situational thing, that there's a problem at home and the man is making a big deal of it. And that's basically how easy we can read the symbolism. We could go even deeper and look at the houses that these cards fall into, but that's not the purpose of this introduction. But that will give us another layer and a more psychological, even spiritual insight into how these patterns are unfolding in these people's lives, how that is affected by their past, how that will affect what are the best options for them to resolve this. We don't know if it's a conflict yet. It seems it could be that the man is just withdrawn because of his anxiety and suffering about a situation, or the woman is sort of in effect brought all of her energies back to just looking after the house and herself, and is not extending herself to look after other people in some particular way. So we don't quite know exactly what that is yet, but we're slowly opening the pattern up. I'm now going to move to perhaps look at the cards immediately above the woman to see what's bearing down on her. And here we can see we've got two cards. We've got the garden and the birds. And they're sort of quite similar. If you think about literally birds in a garden, they'd be twittering around, rapidly moving, flitting from place to place. They'd be trying to get food and stuff like that, and they'd be busy chattering to each other and looking out for anything immediate that might get them to all fly off, like the arrival of a cat into the garden. So here we've got something that is playing on the woman's mind, but it's The birds is quite a transitory card. It is like the flitting of birds. So it can be about gossip and voices, but it's also about small things, similar to the mice in this regard. But it is about passing troubles, nothing too fixed, not like the anchor card, for example, or indeed the cross card. And the garden is about how you go promenading in the original sense of the garden card. And so it's about networking. In the Cyberpunk Lenormand, we might see this as literally the social network itself. The garden is a very particular social gathering place. And it's where you present yourself. It's where you get the gossip from other people and so forth. So the birds, obviously, we may even have a direct correlation to Twitter, which is now, of course, X. But that sort of social, there's a lot of the social media stuff playing on the woman here. So it could be that she's listening to other influencers or influencers, perhaps from her friends, as to exactly how she should be dealing with the situation. And that is in a separate column, excuse me, to the man. And so therefore he might feel actually removed from that. He's not aware of what the woman is being influenced by, all of these voices that are vying for her attention. One interesting thing with the birds is that in the original meanings of the birds card, it was quite transitory. It's not a big thing. So hopefully this issue, at least for the woman, is not going to be a big thing. It's not going to keep going. It's not going to build up to something big. It's just a blip in her relationship and her home life at the moment. Then as we come to look around that card, we might take a look at perhaps what is influencing the woman in the future, where she can look forwards to as to some sort of solution to this transitory problem. Now, the ship is about travel, the lily is about virtue, the sun is about good luck, the moon is about, again, virtue, but how other people see you, and the key is something that resolves the situation. Now, because the key is quite far away from the woman, it does mean that if she tries to resolve this situation herself, she's going to have to get some distance from it. She's going to have to take the higher path and just say, right, let's have a break from this. I'm going to get away from this for a bit. I'm going to find my look and my center somewhere else, and then I'm going to come back so that we can talk about this situation or unlock it in some other way. But that might take a while. So she does have an option to do that with ship, lily, sun, moon, key. But that is a bit of a long distance, and we might be able to find other ways of her resolving the situation or working with the man to do so in order to deal with it. It could also be suggesting that if she takes that route, she might turn it into a longer thing, and it might actually be better for her to wait for it to just pass over and not make a big thing out of it at all. And when we come to look at the situation perhaps from the man's side to see her partner's side as to what's weighing down on him, we can see that there's this argumentative whip. It was also called the birch or the rod, and it was quite often about allowing other people to almost take advantage of you in some way. But also it does mean domestic disharmony as well, which, because we've read the cross in his line and the home and the house in the woman's line, we know that there's domestic disharmony, and that's the context that we're going to take for this card. Now, the clover is interesting because usually it means little bits of luck, but if it's sort of badly aspected in the sense of the cards around it, and here it has the whip above it. It's almost like the man is waiting for some sort of lucky break. He feels that he hasn't been given an opportunity, that this little bit of luck has escaped him somehow, and because of that he feels like his option is to be argumentative, to be combative, to be maybe defensive, or maybe go on the attack with the whip card. And so as a result, we can see that that is playing down on him through this little bit of bad luck that he's had, or a lack of opportunity for this chance that he took. And as a result, that has distanced himself from the woman, but the woman is advised now, we can see, not to perhaps take the ship, Lily, Sun, Moon, Key route, but rather just wait until the situation resolves itself and the man almost comes back to his senses, and not necessarily listen to the birds in the garden, which are distracting her, chattering to her, and making him feel more distant. So maybe it's just that they need a bit of a head-to-head, a bit of a face-to-face discussion about the situation that is causing the cross in the house, and literally being cross words and so forth in the house. And so I hope with that, when we return back to our big matrix, so I hope from that we can see how we can begin to read into this Grand Tableau, starting in a small way and then navigating our way through the matrix that it lays out, and refine our language, tighten it up, confirm our suspicions from a previous card combination or part of the layout that we've read, part of our interpretation, and open it up gradually. It's not like a tarot reading in that sense where we sort of literally go from card to card to card. Here we're being more exploratory. I do like people to learn how to read this in a very exploratory way, sometimes involving the sitter as well. If they need a sense of empowerment themselves, then don't take that away from them. It's my advice anyway, is to get them involved in the reading, pointing to the cards and pointing back to cards that they're interested in and so forth, and allowing them agency within the reading itself. If I was to conclude this reading, even from the little that we've read so far, and hopefully now you can see how big and deep you can go with a full Grand Tableau, then I would suggest that this woman had come to us as a result of a domestic situation, probably arising from moving house or selling a house because of that key card in her future, the distance with the ship. The fact that the man is looking back, as we didn't look at, but we can take a look at the man looking back at the book and the letter. This is all written, knowledge-based material, so he's going on a more advisory written route, a sort of, if you like, a more logical, straightforward route, a contractual route with the domestic situation. Where she's being far more influenced by lifestyle choices and so forth, and they're not seeing eye to eye on this, so they need to just get together, and he needs to bring all of his research and his writing together, and she needs to bring her desired lifestyle to that, and then they need to work out how they can bring those together in looking for probably a new house. And it may be that the guy had a chance to move before and hadn't quite taken it and is regretting probably a change of job by the looks of it, with the tower card and the garden and so forth. But again, you can see how quickly you can now start to read out through the cards and start to piece them together. So I hope you found that useful. And again, I'd ask for your support in the Cyberpunk Lenormand Kickstarter, because I really do want to encourage people to get a really contemporary, modern use of this fantastic divination tool that's based on our very oldest symbolism for divination, dream symbolism, through the reading of tea leaves, coffee grounds, clouds, marks on a cave, and so forth, all the way into a cartomantic form that we have today. And I'd also like to help this this project, this campaign. I wanted to help us teach the origins of the symbolism, their actual tradition, in the sense of following those divinatory symbols across societies and across time as well, rather than a lot of the current writing that seems to be around Lenormand over the last 10 years since we popularised it again, which has gone all sorts of different ways and added layers of complexity that I don't think really do need to be there and don't really add to our ability to read the cards. It is really a case of, keep it simple. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye for now.